Well, that didn't take long. You know you have reached the season of fall. Whenever the Philadelphia Eagles lose a football game and the Sixer people say, that's okay because we've got
Sixers
the big three.
basketball
That's
is
right,
on the way.
The savior, the Philadelphia 76ers. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers Podcast on a Tuesday, September 17th here. Kyle Neubeck, I'm Devon Givens. Brianna's here. Derek has the day off as we get closer to the start of the season. Start to sprinkle in a couple of these days where each one of us may have a day off as we get ready for the upcoming campaign, knowing that we're going to be here every day for a good 7 months covering these basketball games, talking about all the things that we need to discuss about the Sixers. So Derek has the day off. We'll get back to him when we have a chance later in the week. But we certainly have a lot to talk about as we continue our season preview. Even without Derek, we have some things to get into. And knowing that the Saquon Barkley odds may be down now in terms of the MVP in the NFL, courtesy of our good friends with Bet365, or let's just say Jalen Hurts or Nick Sirianni, Coach of the Year odds are not very high.
I don't think anybody's worried about awards right now. In fact, I don't know if Bree can pull this up, but Devon was not making this up. There are tweets out there already of people saying, the Eagles can't hurt me. I'm focused on the new big three in Philadelphia. It's one loss in the second week, and people are ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And honestly, I can't blame them that much because what I've seen through 2 weeks is, I'd say, thoroughly mediocre. Obviously, football, long season.
Yeah.
And with the way the preseason is structured now, I do think it lends itself to very few teams look ready to start the year. And frankly, some of the ones that do, like the Saints, Derek Carr played in 2 preseason games as a veteran quarterback because they had a new offensive coordinator. There we go. Here, Bree threw it up on the screen. The Eagles cannot harm me.
They cannot.
And it's a picture of Tyrese, Paul, and Joel Embiid.
My only problem is change the number. We already know the number at this point. Just change the number. Go ahead.
So
come on to Photoshop. Go on.
So there are very few teams that are they come out of the gates firing on all cylinders that we also believe are, real deal Super Bowl contenders. Now we'll see what happens after a while. I do think though there are real concerns to be had about this Eagles team. If you can't stop the run and you can't pass rush at the same time, you can't really get stops. And on top of that, you're playing, and I know this was to be expected. It's Vic Fangio. It's what he does. Playing that soft sticks defense late
especially
in the game.
In that final possession, man. You cannot. They're playing so far off, man. So far off, man.
So I know everyone. Well, not everyone. Jess is a Dolphins fan, so she's not. She's upset about Tua.
A lot of other things.
A lot of other things going on. I know everyone's trying to avoid the birds today, but all of us here are mad too. So we just gotta try to flush the loss, say it's week 2. There's a lot of season left.
Should he have run the ball?
So here, I would actually say this is a complaint less about that end of game sequence and more about how they handled 3rd and 4th down throughout the game.
Yep.
If they were going to go on 4th downs, or in that spot, if they were going to throw the ball on 4th down. That's a spot on 3rd and short, run it, use the clock. And then if you say, hey, we want to go for it, we're deep in their territory, we already have the lead, then throw it on 4th down, 4th and 3, 4th and 4, 4th and 2, whatever it might be, where the downside risk is not as significant as in that instance. So that, I think, they didn't do a good job of that earlier in the game either, where if they believed it was 4 down territory, to me, that's where you say Saquon's chewing up yardage. It's obviously harder to run in the red zone especially when he's running at 9-10 yards a clip to open the game. So then they're stacking the box and making it hard for him. But that's where I thought they failed, is not thinking of those things on 3rd down to get to that next play, to set up the next thing, and also to work the clock on top of that. So
a lot of frustrating things from the very beginning.
So we're moving on. We're trying to
the very beginning,
flush that loss.
take the 3 points early, man. You know what I mean? Take the 3 points early. You know what I'm saying? Do that early, and then maybe you're not in that position where you have to score a touchdown late, and Jalen Hurts makes a silly play. Did not see the safety at all as he was going for Devontae Smith on the move once again, flushed out of the pocket. And while he had an okay game, that was one where it's like, and I'm sitting with people and they're like, I can't do it with this guy anymore. You know, so,
we already got a hell no birds here, please, with the prayer hands emoji from Lee Nguyen. And it looks, is that a puffin as their avatar?
That's what it looks
I
like.
don't know if that was a recent change or if they're a big puffin fan in general. It might be like the Eagles have been downgraded to the puffin.
Yeah.
So that's my head canon for what happened. So in tribute to Lee and everybody else, we move on. We're going to talk about some MVP race shenanigans.
Not
Jalen
Hurts, though. Not Jalen Hurts. In this
we'll leave that
conversation.
to Bo,
to
and
Bo
Zach and Fran and everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was a frustrating loss. Hey, it's one game. But, man, that was a tough one, watching that one. All right, let's pivot over to the Philadelphia 76ers. And as we talk about MVP conversation and MVP odds for Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley after the week that he had, player of the week for what he did in the NFC, and certainly Nick Sirianni, of course, for a few years there being in the conversation of Coach of the Year. We shifted to the Sixers, and it's because of Joel Embiid. For so many years with the Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid dynamic of most valuable player. Some of the other players starting to get into that conversation as well. But really the big two guys, the big guys in the league with Embiid and Jokic of who was deserving more of that award. Jokic winning, Embiid finally winning one. He talks too much about it. He wants it. Nikola Jokic shows no display of emotion or anything about the MVP, where Joel Embiid certainly wants it. Tells people in an interview that if you hear players tell that they don't care about it, they're just lying, because everybody cares about it and you want to win it. But now that he's won it, and now that we are in this place where the roster is put together this way, he's won it. He's lost so many times in the postseason, not advancing past the second round. One of the things that Kyle and Derek and I and Bree have discussed was how much of this should be a piece of the conversation for the upcoming 24-25 campaign. Should it be at all? Because as good as he is, he's naturally going to be in the discussion. They're going to be at the top of the Eastern Conference. They're going to have a lot of wins. They're going to presumably get over 50 wins. And with that, the best player is going to be in the mix of conversation of what his name, where his name should be with the other best players in the NBA of the most valuable player. But should he care anymore? Should you care anymore? Should that be a point of emphasis for him to go into the season as a goal of his to win it again? Or should he just not worry about it anymore? The 65-game threshold in the NBA where they changed the rule, that's a big piece of it. If he's not going to make it to those games, and Kyle will get to at one point about that in a little bit, then he's not going to be there at all anyway. But can they win with him not focusing on that type of MVP performance to get them to where they and he want to be and advancing past that second round and even further when we talk about the NBA Finals? Should it be? Can he be? What does that look like? That's something we wanted to talk about here today with you all. Kyle, what does that look like? Should it be there? And what does that type of season mean for Joel Embiid?
Well, first, I think Bree made us a beautiful graphic of the MVP odds from our friends at Bet365.
Another Bet365.
Thank you to Bet365 for this. But if taking a look at it, Joel currently sitting tied for fourth with Giannis at plus 600. Jokic at the top, Luka right behind him, Shea in third at plus 500. To me, those look, relatively sensible from where we're sitting. Yep. And Joel priced in a way that says he is among the front runners, the favorites yet again. And so what I'd say to you, Devon, to that question is that it's all contextual, right? Like if you're asking a Sixers fan, should they care about NBA MVP? The answer is kind of, but certainly not at the expense of the bigger goals, the championship, the playoff team success is what everyone cares about. You care about the MVP insofar as it's a reflection of Joel's playing really well, the team is playing really well, and he's healthy enough to play in the amount of games it requires to be in the mix for MVP. If he plays 65 plus games, if they're in contention for a top 2 seed in the East, and he's hitting whatever stat thresholds he needs to hit, if it's 30, 10, and 4, if it's, we talk about the decrease in scoring we might want to see, if it was down to like 25 and let's say he goes crazy rebounding, he gets 15 rebounds a game, and his defense improves, all MVP is about as it relates to Joel Embiid is basically being healthy to me, because he will put up the stats. They will win games when he's on the floor. And so it really comes down to how many games is Joel Embiid going to play, and how much does he care about, and how much does the organization care about the regular season. And so some of what we've heard in the offseason from Joel, he mentioned this just in passing on Drew Hanlon's podcast in July, but said something to the effect of, look, like I think we're going to be pretty disciplined this season as it pertains to back-to-backs. I think the organization probably now feels that with Paul George in the fold, with, they prioritized Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond, I don't remember if this is, he was either the first or the second agreement they had, right? It was like him and Eric Gordon were the first 2 dominoes to fall. So Drummond being one of the first pieces that they said, we got to go out and get this guy. They used a little bit of cap space to get him. That said, not only do you need a capable backup for Joel when he's healthy and available, you need a guy who can be that innings eater player, a starting caliber center on nights Joel sits. And that to me says they are baking into their night-to-night plan, their season-long plan, that Joel will sit even if he is healthy, that there will be times where it's like, hey, we have Cleveland tonight and Milwaukee tomorrow, or we have a back-to-back against both the LA teams out on the West Coast. Joel's going to play in one of them, and that's it. And so I am preparing for a season more like that, where they treat him not quite where he was at early in his career, right? Where he's playing. He had like the 15-minute threshold, and then it was 20, and there were no back. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but to me, I think they're all talking and acting as if they're going into the season with that type of plan. And I think that is the best thing for him, for the team. It's certainly not the best thing for, potentially winning MVP, but I think you're already starting to see the seeds planted for de-emphasize all that gun for the title or whatever your best chance is at winning a title. And so I think that's a refreshing shift after, look, he got his MVP award, right? Like that, nobody can ever take that away from him. He deserved it. I think I still want to see him play in a way that when he's on the floor, he is playing at that type of level, that competitive fire you see from a guy to go for that in the regular season, while also balancing the schedule and making sure that they're keeping his body in as pristine condition as they can prior to April, May, and June.
So the one thing that I would like to add to that is the whole discourse around it at the time. It was always really interesting for those 3-4 seasons, whatever it was, in succession. And the one thing that I always said was, as Joel pointed out, everyone wants to be labeled as the best. Who wouldn't want to win the MVP? So again, I agree with him. Most people, they're lying. They want to win the MVP, but they don't want to have that conversation.
Even
out there.
Jokic, and it's
sure
it gets used as like he's different from everybody else. Which is disingenuous, right? But we know he's prideful, Devon, because of the insane degree of skill that he has, that all these guys have. You don't put in that amount of work and then say, "Oh, I don't care if anybody Of course you want to be recognized. That's a human instinct to put in hard work and want to be recognized for it.
And I thought he was right in wanting to win it and being honest about it, especially when we speak about athletes not telling the truth, not being upfront about how they feel about certain things while still having that team success. And that was there with the Sixers, at least during the regular season. And we're talking about a regular season award. But now that, as Kyle pointed out, we are here, we're removed from him having one already in his pocket. It's done. He has it. what's left? What's next? And that is, of course, to advance and have the opportunity to play for an NBA championship. And I don't know how much, as we talk about the Olympics, that stuff is going to change his mindset as we get ready for this upcoming season. But you would hope that for a player who has never won anything, has never had success in anything, that did something for that individual going into what we are looking at as one of the more important seasons of his career as he comes in at the age of 30, adding another co-star with Paul George to go along with he and Tyrese Maxey, a much deeper team, and you still don't have a championship. You still have nothing to go along with it where Giannis and Jokic do. So if he is to come in and do what he always does, we talked about the numbers of potentially could his numbers drop from 35 or 33 and maybe go into that 28, 30 range that they had discussed last season. Kyle and Derek, hey, he's probably going to get 30 just because he's that good.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of will the other things entail with it? The games played, the passing that goes along with it, his assist numbers are there, his rebounding goes back up, his defense is more of an emphasis where he's getting 2.5 blocks instead of 1.5, and you're seeing the impact that he has. They're at the top of the Eastern Conference, 1 or 2, hovering around that top record in the NBA, and that stuff will just naturally come into play. But they don't need that anymore as far as the MVP conversation because there will be the Shai Gilgeous conversation. Luka, same thing. Again, has Jokic, does he still have it in him? Losing other players, those other key role players around him. And that's where, when you look at Embiid, he is in the prime spot to just go out there, play basketball, as I saw real time say in the chat, go do his thing, not worry about the MVP because all of that stuff will just simply fall into his lap with those awards, with those acknowledgments and that recognition of all NBA and any other discussion that goes along with it of being one of the best players, all-star, certainly, and getting those votes from the fans to be a representative at the 5 spot for the Eastern Conference. All of that stuff will come into play. And so what does it look like and how will he have to do these things to make sure that if his numbers are still 30, but he's now at 12 and a half boards and playing 34 minutes and still putting up those types of numbers, as we saw when they started to dominate in that December run, and he's not even playing in the fourth quarter. We were talking about him still being the leader as an MVP because the team success was there and what he was doing playing within the structure of Nick Nurse's offense and being so damn good that it was hard to deny what he was doing. And even the people who wanted to force some of those other players from the NBA in that conversation, it wasn't even close until he went down with that injury as to where the other players really started to move past him and recognizing that he wasn't going to reach that threshold of 65 games, and we couldn't talk about him doing that anymore. And if you all realize and you look at it, once he came back in late March and that April stretch and certainly the playoffs, nobody cared about it anymore. It was just go out there and win this series, do what you do against the Knicks, and get it done and seeing how far you can advance. And if he goes in there with that, plays with the team, be unselfish in those times that we would like to see that, and I always go back to Paul George again. I'm going to keep saying it at that press conference. We don't want Joel to have to isolate at the top, jab stepping at the top of the key as much as we've seen him in the past. And if that player that we saw some of that unselfishness within the structure of that Team USA team translates now to the Sixers basketball team, they're going to be a hell of a basketball squad this season because he's too talented not to reach the individual numbers that we've seen for so many years. That's not going to hurt his career average. It's not going to hurt his all-star appearance, any of that. He's going to get all of that if he goes out there and plays that unselfish way of basketball and just simply going out there to hoop.
So we have a point I want to get to from a chatter in here that I think is an important one to touch on in this discussion. We're going to talk about a couple of friends of ours.
We'll do that.
We will come back from the break and get back to some MVP talk.
Oh, this is some fun conversation here when we come back here on the PHLY Sixers podcast talking about Joel Embiid, the MVP. Should it matter? What does matter, of course, is you want to look good, right? You want to look good out there, whether it's for yourself, internally, personally. The selfishness that we talk about as an MVP. You want to look good. You want to look straight. You want to be groomed well. And if you're going to do that, you got to do so with our new friend, courtesy of the great people from Glatt Hair Restoration. Now, Morgenstern Center for Orbital and Facial Plastic Surgery recently welcomed the Glatt Group to the practice, creating an invaluable opportunity to leverage Dr. Glatt's high-caliber brand equity and begin an exciting chapter in the Morgenstern's highly respected legacy. And as a true advocate, my friend, who I've known for a long time, and he's been with Dr. Glatt for many, many years, John Marks, marketing campaign on the new platform here at PHLY, educating the audience through authentic stories and engaging narratives. Now, for me, I'm in my 40s now, and it is no secret that I know, my family knows, my friends know. I wouldn't come on here and act like I don't know that. Of course, if I could do some things with my beard, I can't grow it like Kyle. It's just been a thing for my entire life. Start my hairline going back a little bit. My
dad's got real good mustache genes, I would say that.
My dad does too, but I didn't get that part of it. So I was screwed on that part. Darn it. Come on, man. But look, but again, I would be naive if I didn't. I know. I talked to my barber. I talked to my family about it. And when it's time, it's just going to be time to cut my hair off. But if I wanted to try to save it and look good and be that MVP that I want to be on camera with all of you, I would most certainly go to the great people from Dr. Glatt with Glatt Hair Restoration by Morgenstern Medical. And look, it is established by the late Dr. Paul Glatt, now part again of the Morgenstern Center. The same peerless approach to the care, same expert team, same unmatched Glatt system, state-of-the-art location, stellar results. And again, I've talked to Johnny about this year. It's hearing him discuss it so much in our days together in the past. Under the direction of Dr. Morgenstern, a highly respected plastic surgeon, you too can correct some of the things that need to be corrected for your own individual purposes. Glatt Hair can help during all stages of hair loss with leading-edge treatments for prevention and restoration, including laser light therapy, no invasive TED treatments, vitamin supplementation, hair restoration surgery, PRP, and stem cell restoration. Each patient receives a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment for you. So bald is now optional, but if you want to improve how you look and how you feel about yourself, Glatt Hair has the right treatment for you. Regain your confidence. Visit GlattHairMCTR.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started.
Once you talk to the people at Glatt and you got your new and improved head of hair, put a nice pair of shades on from our friends at Shady Rays and step out into the sunshine and impress everybody. So, guys, I keep telling you, get ready for every season ahead with Shady Rays quality shades that are built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that don't break the bank. They have hundreds of options to choose from. You're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. I don't think anybody really wants Eagles colors right now,
Not
right?
now.
We're trying to
next week.
We're trying to pretend they don't exist for at least a couple of days. But I could bet you, whatever your favorite team is, they have your favorite team's colors and a pair of shades. I've worn multiple pairs of Shady Rays on this show because 1, they work. 2, they're stylish. 3, they're affordable. And you can also wear them just about anywhere, right? You can wear them to the beach, wear them in the car, wear them doing some housework in your backyard, on your roof, on your deck, whatever you need to do in the sun. Even sometimes in this studio, it gets pretty dang bright.
It does.
Shady Rays has got your back. And if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, you don't need to sweat it. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. Plus, if you don't love your shades, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. No risk shopping with Shady Rays. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays giving out the best deal of the season and every season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. That's a whole heck of a lot of people.
Kyle, you should have got Jared Allen some of those shades for when he made the comments.
The lights are too bright. Lights are too bright. Wear your Shady Rays rec specs.
Yes,
I don't know if they got those in the Shady Rays inventory, but we'll have to talk to them about that. Okay, so I wanted to touch on something, Devon. Mike Weisberg in the chat said, I just think it's really tough to narratively win MVP with lower scoring. even if you increase winning, and prior to that, he had said, I think this is a fair point. If Embiid's usage goes down, scoring wise, there's no way he wins MVP. Tatum's usage went down. The team exploded wins wise. Tatum then finished 6th in MVP. So, Mike, I think those are fair points to make. Certainly worth considering that Boston was by far the best team last year, won the title, and Tatum was never really in that conversation for real. I think it's important to note that that's a reputational thing, and it's a lot of it is just about Tatum is not viewed as that caliber of player in the way that Joel, Jokic, Shea, Luka, and it is viewed as more of a communal effort than it is for Joel in Philadelphia or those guys on their respective teams. And Tatum might have even if Tatum has an identical season, I do think Tatum will have a better case this year just because it's like, okay, you climbed the mountaintop, you went on your finals run and you won. But I think because Jaylen Brown wins finals MVP, because Jrue Holiday was this big addition, Derek White puts up numbers, Kristaps comes in, it is viewed as like they are just a loaded team rather than this guy is an absolute force. And I think you can see that in, Joel gets hurt last year. They went off a cliff, right? They go from being a top of the conference type team to they had to battle out of the play-in just to make the playoffs. Or, if Jokic were to miss extended time, the Nuggets go from a contender to they're an irrelevant team, right? There's no way to replace that guy. If the Celtics lose Tatum, they absolutely get worse, right? Like he's a very good player, but I don't think people see it as like, oh, the Boston Celtics would just implode if it was Derek White, Jrue Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, Horford, and the rest of the role players, and they had to carry on without him. So while I agree with you, I do think it gets tougher to win as you scale back your scoring. I think Tatum is a fairly unique case among players in the top 10 to 15 where he is viewed in a different light. And I think if Joel plays like he did to start last year, which is a lot of hitting cutters, a lot of moving the ball, upping his assists, keeping his turnovers down, and they win 60 plus games.
It was
now,
so
I'm not
easy.
saying that that's likely, right? Like I think when we talked about win totals, and we'll do that later again, we're expecting more, low to mid 50s realistically. But if they won 60 plus games and Joel had another great season, I think he is firmly at or near the top. It just kind of depends on what happens with the rest of the league.
Yeah, and it was so easy when Joel was just playing basketball the way that they were playing. And for the Tatum piece of it, as Kyle laid all of that out, Tatum still made All-NBA first team. Now, positionally, it's different, Jokic and all of that for the first team and all, and he played enough games to qualify, but he made All-NBA. He made the All-Star team, and he was first team All-NBA, as a matter of fact. So those things, again, are still there. I bet you Joel won exactly what Jayson Tatum got at the end, which was a championship at this stage of his career. So, again, he can still be as good as he was. The Boston Celtics, if Jayson Tatum was off the floor, Derek just wrote a piece last week on allphly.com. Make sure you go sign up to become a diehard member. And it was about, Kyle, when you were out discussing the minutes without Joel off the floor. What does that look like? How do they win that? When Jayson Tatum was off the floor, you still have Jaylen Brown that can run in that offense, and you can still have Jrue Holiday and Derek White, Al Horford, and when Kristaps Porzingis is healthy, where they're able to sustain their level of play, having Peyton Pritchard on the floor and Sam Hauser, and still being able to, while the names are not huge like we would see here maybe as a role player coming off the bench in Philadelphia, the production was there where they didn't lose much when Jayson Tatum sat down and took a breather while coming off the floor. So that's going to be imperative. It's going to be important where, hey, he comes off the floor. They still have some good stuff there running with Andre Drummond on the floor at the 5. The others contributing at their respective positions where they're not a -8 when Joel Embiid comes off the floor. And then when he does come back in, they still have the lead. Things are running a certain way where, again, the numbers are just going to pile up organically because he's so good. And that will all, once again, just simply take care of itself. The question, though, now is, when we look at everybody else here, and you talk about the odds, and Bree put the odds up there, and we look at Anthony Edwards at plus 1,200 right there behind Joel, Brunson, and Jayson Tatum. You mentioned him, plus 1,600. Victor Wembanyama, plus 2,000. And Ja Morant at plus 3,300. Things really start to go off a cliff after Steph Curry at plus 4,000, Zion at plus 5, Kevin Durant plus 65, and then it really takes a big time.
It's just a nosedive after that.
So as you pointed out, the names that are there that we have on the screen, those are most likely the ones that we're going to be discussing at some point during the season, whether Joel Embiid's in it or not.
So here's what I would say, looking at that top 10, but also then further down the list that's not on our graphic. If I were to make a lower odds bet, it's Jalen Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
I think at plus 1,800, you consider last year was this massive breakout year for him. You consider that he plays in a huge market. They're going to be on national TV all the time. The amount of buzz that he gets because of that, and I'm not saying it's unfair, right? It's just kind of how it works, right? The Knicks and Lakers
New York,
get a lot of coverage. New York gets a lot of coverage in any sport. If Jalen Brunson has another big year and the Knicks are able to cut into that lead that Boston had over everybody else in the conference, if it's close or the Knicks emerge with the number 1 seed, I think he will become pretty easily the favorite for MVP.
Yep.
And so for him to be behind Ant, who I love Ant, but I still think he's got like a tier or two to go to be in that like MVP
and that's all up to
level
him.
range. Yeah. I think Joel with, the health concerns, Giannis is ahead of him, and I've said my piece on the Bucks all summer, and I'll keep saying it, that I'm not a believer. I do think those West guys are all between Shea, Luka, Jokic, all rightful guys in that top 3. But I think Brunson is one that I would keep an eye on. The other one, and he's much longer odds at plus 15,000, which just seems crazy to think about. LeBron James at plus 15,000.
The age of 40.
Just throw like $10 on that one. And
isn't his birthday in December, something like that?
I believe
40
so,
years old he's going to be, and he's going to be in the MVP mix. Or long odds there.
But looking at him in the Olympics, how good he still is, the concerns are real, right? Maybe the Lakers just aren't good enough is the main one. The second one is maybe LeBron can't stay healthy enough to even be in this mix because he's old, right? As good a care as he takes of himself. There's no real margin for error when you're 40 years old and you're playing 82 games a year. It's really tough. But when you're giving LeBron the same odds as, like, for example, Paolo Banchero has the same MVP odds as LeBron.
Yep.
Trae Young has better MVP odds than LeBron. Kawhi's got better MVP odds.
Who can't even play 25 games.
Kawhi's plus 10,000. LeBron's plus 50. Like, what am I missing?
And LeBron's going to play.
Kawhi's going to play like 50 games, maybe. Jaylen Brown at plus 10,000. Like, if he didn't win it last year, and he wasn't even close, Tatum is still viewed as like the guy. Right? That one just doesn't make sense. So that seems... No, not casting any aspersions at Bet365. Obviously, we love our partners, but that feels mispriced to me if you're just trying to take a punt and throw a dart at the board, say, hey, maybe the guy that if a 40-year-old has an elite all-NBA season and the Lakers are good, there will be a groundswell of like, give it up one last time for LeBron as he rides
You missed
off
one,
into
though.
Who did I miss?
Plus 100,000.
Oh, God.
Bronny James. You didn't even see that, did you? You didn't even see it.
All right, I will tell you this: if you bet $1 American on Bronny James for MVP, you should lose your right to gamble on sports.
He's on here, man.
That shouldn't be allowed. That should be an instant, like, you place the bet and the app just self-destructs. There's just no way.
The countdown, man.
No way that should be allowed.
Plus 100,000.
It's one thing to bet on, one of the 3 greatest players of all time in a last hurrah. It's another to bet on a second-round pick who's probably not going to play at all.
He's got the same name. You might confuse yourself.
He's got the same odds as like James Harden, which is just Anyway, they just put that on there to take your money. And nobody's got...
Because someone's going to put that $1 American on there just to do it and say they made a ticket.
Don't do it. I'm trying to save you from yourself.
Make sure you go, though, and put some money on the plus 75,000 that won Mikal Bridges for the MVP for the season. So we'll look at some defensive odds at some point.
Money.
Well, look, we got to talk about some of Joel's teammates and where they fall on this list. Yeah. Is there a possibility that one makes a leap and one kind of makes that shift to a new team and he feels reinvigorated and just goes off and puts himself in that conversation? We'll do that when we get back here after you put that $1 American on Bronny James.
Don't do it.
PHLY Sixers Podcast. We got to talk about after you win that money, betting on Bronny James with that $1 American. You got to get some things done at home with Empire Today. With Empire Today, you get to shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation after you win that money with Bronny James winning his first MVP award. A price match guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get that new flooring. So, of course, they have copycats out there, but don't fall for it. They have Empire Today quality service. Speed. So they advertise low quality product. You know, they can't beat Empire Today because, again, they don't have that quality service, the speed. They have a low quality products that, hey, they simply Empire won't carry. Today, Empire Today won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in their home that wouldn't put in theirs. The brand value props that we have here for Empire Today overall. Keep shopping for floors that are simple with a curated product selection. The philosophy there at Empire is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they will leave you with, though, out of the selection overall isn't important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find perfect styles. You also want a service of their own warranties. Of course, if an issue does arise, just call Empire. They service all warranties themselves. You won't have to track down the manufacturer's phone number. Priding themselves in convenient shop at home service. Customer shop for the floors where they use their floors so they can see exactly what their new floors will look like in the homes with the lighting and decor so they can make an informed decision overall. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for details.
And ladies and gentlemen, as the certified beverage king of PHLY, I got to tell you once again about our friends at Rugged Road. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative, durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Rugged Road's products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship so that they can perform in the toughest conditions. But here's the thing, guys. Those tough conditions are different depending on where you're at. Water, land, you don't have to choose because Rugged Road coolers are floatable. They always float upright. You never have to lose a drink. They're lightweight. So if you're bringing them to a river, to a lake, to the beach for camping, you know, you're carrying a lot of stuff. I've seen some of those caravans that show up to the beach, man, with those big two-wheelers. They throw all the stuff on.
Sure.
And then you still got to get the cooler there. The great thing is that Rugged Road is lightweight, durable, and dependable, so you don't have to sacrifice anything at all to bring it with you to whatever your favorite summertime or wintertime activity is. It's perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, fishing, tubing, camping, even tailgating when you actually want to think about the Eagles again. Rugged Road's coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor or sports enthusiast. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, built to be used, Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code PHLY for 10% off.
And when you're out and about with your Rugged Road and you say, hey, I need a hat, get a hat like Kyle and I have from our PHLY locker. Of course, Bree has one. Derek has one. You should have one also. Make sure you sign up for our Die Hard program. Go to our website, allphly.com. You have an opportunity to get dope merchandise there, like our dad hats here that we have.
Oh, yeah.
They go with everything. They're always convenient. Going to a Birds game, Phillies game, Sixers, Eagles, whatever. Make sure, again, you go sign up to become a diehard member, and you have a chance to get some dope merchandise, free shirt when you become a member. Members only Discord at the PHLY Lounge.
We got a new shirt on the Philadelphia store, by the way, a Road to Victory shirt. If you are a Penn State fan, which I am not, but a Penn State and Eagles fan, and you love Saquon Barkley, boy, do we have a shirt for you, that Road to Victory shirt. I would check that out. You do get a free shirt when you sign up to be a diehard. So if you've been thinking about it, you've been waiting for it, maybe you just wanted a different shirt to make that purchase, I'd think about that one. I would also think about becoming a diehard because all those great benefits Devon laid out.
That's right. Written content as well from the gang here. Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, Phillies, Union, the Nittany Lions, Tyler Zulli, Adam Talaferro, and their show. So
I don't acknowledge college football much, so it basically doesn't exist to me. But obviously, if that floats your boat, they got you covered. Tyler's a big Penn State guy. And we are always live on Roku TV, streaming live every day on Roku TV. We have our channel. All you have to do is go in there and search for PHLY for Roku, our Roku channel, and we're there, right there on Roku TV. And you can talk about how we wear our clothes, our legs, our hats, all kinds of stuff. My pants that Darkness always likes to point out.
Streaming right here on the PHLY Roku channel. All right, let's get to the other guys that are on this list, but further down the list.
Yeah.
One of the first ones I brought up to you was, can Tyrese Maxey make a leap where he's at least in the discussion like Jalen Brunson was and finishing in that top 5? You are often a part of that straw poll with Tim Bontemps for ESPN, and Jalen Brunson was
blame me
in that mix a lot. Jalen Brunson was. Could Tyrese Maxey maybe shock everybody from this number that he has here at plus 25,000 and make your list at some point during the season, Kyle?
I am normally part of ESPN's straw poll, so when Joel is near the top, give me credit. When he's not, it's not my fault at all.
Not his fault.
I only want credit and I want no blame. I just want to make sure that that's clear, since everyone now knows that I'm part of that. As far as Tyrese goes,
yes,
I think it's always tough if you're the second guy on a team, even though Tyrese is all-star, competing for all NBA stuff, it is very difficult to make that jump to you're the guy and you can get into the MVP race. And I think given what we saw end of last season without Joel, their record without Joel would have to be outstanding. Mm-hmm. And Tyrese would have to supplant he would have to be Game 5 in New York, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel takes a step to the side every time, like almost every game, for the narrative of the team to change. And I just don't see that happening. Now, what I do think is in his favor, Paul George arriving, and I think being comfortable in that third guy role. When Joel is off the floor or Joel is not available, will become the number 2, mm-hmm. and Tyrese will have those opportunities to be the guy, and they should be able to win at a higher clip than they did last year. So let's say Tyrese plays, 75 games, that he doesn't suffer any kind of major injuries, knock on wood. Hopefully he doesn't suffer any injuries for that matter. Doesn't miss time, and they win high 50s, let's say 57, 58 games, and scores more points, gets closer to 30, and he becomes the go-to guy in crunch time. I think you could squint and see that and be like, yeah, there's an outside chance of that happening. I just think it would require so many different things happening at once. Winning with Joel, but being the guy. Winning without Joel, still being the guy.
Right.
And even at the end of the day, you're going to find it tough to shake he has Joel Embiid. So it's not as hard for him as it is let's say a Jokic, who's the guy on the team, or let's say Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's the guy in Oklahoma City and is going to be the main driver of that team being potentially the top team in the West. It would be a big change to how this team is viewed, how both players are viewed. I can't see it happening, which is partially why he's at plus 25,000.
Right.
I'm not saying he can't play at that level. It is just, Scottie Pippen was one of the best players in the league, right? And Jordan was always better than him, so that made it easy. Even when he became the guy and they won 50 plus games, he didn't win MVP. He was close. He was in the conversation, but he was not quite there. So I don't really see a reasonable path unless, again, knock on wood that this doesn't happen, unless Joel were to suffer a major injury, he's out for most of the year, and then Tyrese carries them to 50 plus wins, scoring 30 points a game. That's the only real way I think it could happen.
I agree with you. That's not where he is right now, and probably not as long as Joel Embiid is at this level of who he is. It's going to take a lot for Tyrese Maxey to elevate and get to that point where he's going to be in there. But that doesn't mean he cannot get some other individual awards as we go along. We already saw the All-Star piece a season ago. You would imagine that continues, especially if the team's success is there. And we'll talk about a few more of those things as we do our season previews over here over these last 2 weeks before training camp gets underway. Media Day, of course, first on the 30th, but it's going to take quite a bit for him to get to that spot. But one thing we do know about him, as we did that 1% show last week, that guy's going to do everything he possibly can to be the best player that he can be for himself individually, carrying himself that way, and then for the team success to follow right behind with that, where, hey, he might win a player of the month 1 month. He has the ability
he could be
to
all
do that
NBA.
kind of stuff.
Like he was not that far off last season.
No.
And that was when he had to, when you get to that point at the end of the year, and those all NBA teams are where people are putting in every factor, right? It's how many games did you play? What was your team success? Blah, 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 blah. Just the list goes on. Part of the problem for Tyrese was, hey, the team slipped down the stretch and his numbers, his efficiency went down without Joel. And that's okay, right? It was his first real time as like, you're the guy. And there really was no number 2 guy, right? Like Tobias masqueraded as one, but that's not someone you want as your second option for a team that's going places. And so he lost out on it. But that, I think he is absolutely positioned now with Paul's support that they can be better, with Andre Drummond, with some of these other guys, to put together a better, more competent product when Joel potentially can't play. He's absolutely in a better position to be an all NBA type of player. And we believe in the talent. We believe in the work ethic. It's, as people are saying in the chat as well, it's you versus everybody in the league. And so even if Tyrese becomes that guy for this team, and Joel is I don't think this happens, but Joel takes that step to the side, you have to ask yourself, is his narrative better than Shai or Luka or Jokic or Giannis or any number, or Ant-Man, any number of these guys that could lead their team to an incredible season, put up huge numbers, and are the undisputed, like, you're the captain of your team. You are steering the ship. That's the hardest thing I think that he would have to overcome. It is absolutely no indictment of him.
No.
And again, I think we've talked about this a lot during the offseason. I think it would be good for the team if they can figure out an arrangement that looks sort of like what we saw in the playoffs, where Joel is that, first half, first 3 quarters guy, and Tyrese becomes the if it's a Kobe Shaq dynamic, he's the Kobe, right? Where Shaq would just hammer these teams for 3 quarters and he's dragging everybody up and down the floor. And then when it's time for somebody to use the young legs and stretch teams out and do everything else, it was Kobe. Like, I'm not putting pressure on Tyrese Maxey to be Kobe Bryant. I'm just saying we've seen that sort of little guard, big man relationship. I mean, Andrew Toney's another example. Like, there's a reason when that Sixers team broke through that Andrew Toney was often the guy, second halves, fourth quarters.
I got this,
who's
Doc.
running the offense. They're giving him the ball. Little guys who are carrying less weight, are not as tired at the end of games. That's just a fact of life when you're, 200 pounds versus 280, 300. You have more to give late in games. So we are expecting Tyrese to take a step up in ways like that. That's just not the difference between, where he's at and MVP of the league.
And he's tied with that number of 25,000 plus 25,000 with Domantas Sabonis of the Kings and Chet Holmgren of the OKC Thunder, right in front of those two at plus 2,000, Damian Lillard and De'Aaron Fox. So just to understand the company that he keeps with the odds there. Paul George, his odds company, these folks, plus 5,000. You got a long 50,000. 50,000. You got a long way to go. Paul George with Brandon Ingram, Cade Cunningham, Lowry Marketing, Kyrie Irving, DeMar DeRozan, Pascal Siakam at plus 50,000 on Bet365 for the odds of winning MVP. But again, for this particular team, as Kyle just laid out everything with Tyrese Maxey, that's not the Paul George that they need. It'd be great if he would elevate his level of play at the age of 34 and be in that conversation once again. And that would just simply mean, number one, it wouldn't be great because that might mean one guy might be out. And that kind of production means you have to supplant one of the other two to get to that level in the structure of where you are 1, 2, and 3 in the pecking order of the scoring load and all. But if he were to do that while the other two were out there with him, all three in the all-star type of conversation, that would be fantastic. You just want a healthy season from him, productive two-way play, being in that 22 to 23 range, scoring-wise points per game, and do your part as that lead wing guy that they signed you for.
I think he can clear that easily. He was scoring, 20.
So he's at 23.
25.9. Are you talking about Paul George?
Paul George.
Okay, yeah. All right. I'm sorry. My wires are getting crossed.
You talking about Maxey?
Yeah, Maxey was averaging like 26 last year.
Yeah, and I expect him to be right there again.
Yes.
Yeah, 26. And the 22, that's easy for Paul George, 22, 23, especially with the other two on the floor. He may not be in MVP conversations, but there's certainly going to be some others that he'll be maybe recognized for should the team, again, have the team success and those three play really well together. So it's really about Embiid. And at this stage, after winning one, feeling like he should have won maybe one or the other two that Jokic did have, it's about the team success and the NBA Finals or the Eastern Conference Finals for this big guy in this team.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I would not be shocked to see Jokic win it again because, and I know it's Captain Obvious, he's the leader in terms of the odds right now, but I think you got to think about the narrative, right? Because for many people, this is a narrative award. And so what works this year is not next year, is not the year after that. Every season you come into it looking at it differently. And so I think the Nuggets will be very good. Whether they'll be top of the West, I would doubt that, but I think they'll be very good again. And you think about all the conversation about the Nuggets in the offseason. Well, KCP got away. They're relying on all the young guys. The team's getting worse. They're being, to some degree, undercut by management and ownership. And, are they going to be able to keep this together? And if Jokic just simply goes out and has basically the same season he's had 4 times in the last 5 years, and the Nuggets are a top 3 seed in the West, then it becomes all those things that we say are negative right now become positive for his case. It's like, look at what he can still do. He's losing all these guys. And I mean, really, the real cherry on top of the Jokic Sunday will be, oh my God, he made Russell Westbrook a playable rotation guy again, an impactful guy. He's playing well off of Jokic. What can't he do? And Real Time had a super chat earlier that we'll throw in here, said, Jokic unbothered, quote unquote, about awards chip annoyed me. I agree, because yes, he doesn't do the public stuff and advocate for himself in the same way. But Nikola Jokic, as he deserves to be, is a prideful guy. He has put in an absolutely outstanding amount of work to be the player that he is. Of course, deep down, he cares about winning and, doing whatever he can. I think that's also, it's disrespectful of the way he plays, right? He wouldn't be, getting 9, 10, 11 assists a game, sharing the ball, taken away from his own scoring if it wasn't about I want to achieve at the highest level possible, whether that's as an individual, as a team player. I think it's ridiculous to suggest that he's like, I know he loves his horses and he loves going back home and all that stuff. He's a competitor to the absolute core of his being. And I wish people would talk about it that way instead of trying to make him, different from all these other guys in that respect.
He wants to be the best, just like everybody else wants to be the best.
Has been, or at least has been right there for a long time now. So he's going to be, I think he deserves to be the front runner for those reasons. And because he's going to, average like 25, 10 and 10 for another season in a row, which is just seems impossible that he does that.
Yep.
And then the other guy, I would skip over Luka for the reasons I always bring up. It's like he plays himself into shape for the first 2 months.
You going Shea?
That takes him. I think Shea is my other guy that I would really.
That's the one for me.
He's the one that I think he'll have the narrative of like, they could be the number 1 seed in the West, and I think could be the number 1 seed by a pretty comfortable margin. He'll put up great numbers. It's the games played could be because he's had some, ups and downs with health and some injuries. And so we'll see on that front. But Shea is where I think I would go first. And then Jokic is just hard to deny on basically any level.
Yeah. So Shea is the one for me also. So I'm right there with you. And we'll have an opportunity again with our season preview where we keep going and do different things. So maybe all NBA comes up, maybe Defensive Player of the Year comes up. We'll get into all of that with these players because if we expect this team to be as good as we think, they're going to be in the conversation for a lot of them. But Joel Embiid, again, plus 600 in the MVP odds, and nobody cares. Will you make a bet? Go to Bet365 if you, in fact, are going to do that. For Joel Embiid. I'll ask you this one before we get ready to say goodbye and have our world-famous roll call. Our good buddy Tim Bontemps was talking about Nic Batum last week being really – basically, Tim was saying that there was a really, 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 really good chance that Nic Batum was going to come back, liked it here, wanted to come back, but the family dynamic, as we discussed at the time, really took over and put him over the top of going back to L.A.
It makes sense to me, right? Like, I mean, everything we heard was that they were, I think the phrase that was used to me, they were cautiously optimistic that he would come back. I think Joel really advocated hard for him. And so that obviously plays a role, right? We talked a lot on the show about the 2 French speakers and having that. It's a different sort of bond than some other guys in the locker room. And Joel just appreciating what he brought on the floor, right? Like best entry passer he had ever played with, so on and so forth. And so I know the Sixers wanted him. I was not surprised to hear that Nico was interested in some degree because he talked very glowingly about his experience here and that it wasn't what he had expected coming into the season. But that once he was here, once he was embraced by the fans, once he got to play with Joel and under Nick Nurse and so on and so forth, all things were positive that I heard. And so not that shocked, but also not that shocked that he ended up in LA because the family element outweighed everything else. And I know the Batums went through some things behind the scenes last year trying to, they're juggling a bunch of different things that we don't have to get into here just to, get everybody situated as the
Nico
trade
happened.
Traded coasts basically for the season. That's a real problem to have to go through. And so I'm not surprised to see him go back there. Selfishly, I'm a little upset that, he was a very thoughtful, good guy to have in the locker room. Certainly we sung his praises on the show, but wish him the best of luck out there in LA and see what those new look sort of Clippers look like next season. I think they'll still be pretty good, but Kawhi's got to stay healthy is the big thing.
And once James Harden realizes that he's able to be James Harden and when Kawhi's not there, boy, watch out. I don't know what that's going to look like, but watch out. Ty Lue is a good coach, but I don't know how much he can get through all of that and still figure things out. But they have some good players, signing some decent guys. Derek Jones went there also. So we'll see what that looks like.
That's where Chris Dunn went too, if I'm remembering correctly. So he should help them as well.
So they have some. And at least Nic Batum did send another Frenchman here for Joel Embiid to speak to since he said some nice things To
What up,
Yabusele.
Yabu?
Yes, absolutely. Make sure you all sign up for the Die Hard program here, of course, at allphly.com. So you can hang out with us every day, read the articles, training camp things that Kyle and Derek will have once we get there for the Bahamas, things from Media Day with myself and Rich Hoffman on that day. Should be a fun time. Now it's time for our world famous roll call.
There we go. Yeah, Devon I don't know if we've actually said this on the show. Derek and I are going to get like a half day in the Bahamas just chilling before everybody shows up. It's going to be beautiful. You and Rich will be over in hopefully sunny Camden.
I know.
We'll be down at Atlantis, maybe riding that water slide, having ourselves
With
a
some
grand,
Shady Rays.
A grand, yeah. Oh, there will be some choose and chill and some Shady Rays happening down in the
I'll be
Bahamas.
there later. I'll be there later.
Might be at that craps table too if they have. I know there's casino there. We'll see.
Look at that. I'm going to get some shopping.
All right, everybody. Too. Have to say thank you.
Put the bells in the chat.
To many of our people here today. I want to start with Valhos, who I heard yesterday at Uptown won a nice autographed Brian Dawkins photo, poster, frame, whatever. I'm not sure exactly how you classify it. Valhos was there showing up for us as always. I'm glad that Val was able to win.
Congratulations, Val.
I saw
prize. I saw the tweet with Jamie and Val.
Perfect.
With the photo. So congratulations, Val.
We love seeing our obviously anybody who wins we're happy for, but when it feels like it's one of our people, it means even more. So thank you to Val. Thank you to Jess who's in here today.
What up, Jess? Glad you're feeling better. She was sick last week.
Glad you're feeling better. Jess, thank you to Darkness.
Whoa, turn the lights down. We're the Shady Rays.
Thank you to Malcolm Carrington.
What up, Mal?
My girl, Winona.
Hey, Nona.
Money Mars in the building.
What up, Money?
Eugene Ross is in the building. SB Cole is in the building. The #1 Kelly Oubre superfan. Phil W.
Phil.
In the building. What's up to Phil? What's up to Real Time with Prince Blue, who sent us a super chat today.
Show the badge, Phil.
Thank you to Real Time.
Show the badge.
Thank you to Sean Ford for stopping through. Thank you to Bootzilla.
Boots.
Thank you to Eden, the remix to PHLY. Khalil Wilson.
What up, Lil?
We had Still Rocks 33 in here who was dropping a lot of Shamrocks. So
is that a Boston thing?
Looks like a Celtics fan. But again, I always appreciate people who come in here and are not openly aggressive.
Still Rocks. We appreciate it.
We appreciate that. Mike Weisberg set off some conversation today. Thank you to you. Thank you to Elliot Vincent, Elaine Bruno.
Lane.
I'm sure Al, the 2-minute warning was in here
what
somewhere.
Up, Al?
Although Al used to be a little more active, buddy.
I'm putting
What's going on? Challenge on you.
I hope it wasn't our time change. We're still in that 3:30 window where you would be here. Where you at?
Thank you to Wealthy Mind. And thank you also, I remembered from the beginning, Lee Nguyen, the Puffer avatar. We hope that Puffer turns back into an Eagle after next week's game. Guys, if you're still here, hit this. Oh, how about Hot Hand Keys?
I was about to say, what's Hot Hand Keys?
Hot Hand Keys.
Hot Hand Keys, what up?
Coming in late.
Coming in hot.
Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. Hit the thumbs up button.
Yes.
To send well wishes to Derek on his day off.
Needed the day off.
Hopefully not having too much fun without us. I know he's actually tending to
I think he's frustrated with the Eagles loss.
Yeah. Everyone send your best to Derek by way of a thumbs up and send it as a thank you to super producer Bree. As always, we'll be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. We'll catch you then.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.